Hello, guys. I'm Renato Simões. I'm here in Spiel Digital. I'm here for the Brazilian Pavilion. Today, I receive here Keith Matejka, the guy from Thunderworks Games, and he will talk to us about many of his games like Role Player, Lockup, Cartographers, and lots more. Okay? Welcome, Keith.
Thanks for having me, man.
How are you?
Good. Things are great. Just launched a Kickstarter yesterday, and just it's doing really well. So I'm super excited about that.
Very, very good. So, can you start talking to us about which Kickstarter did you launch yesterday?
Sure, yeah. So yesterday we launched a Kickstarter for Cartographers Heroes. So this is the standalone standalone expansion for Cartographers, the role player tale. So this is kind of a second version of it that has some new monsters. It has all new scoring cards. It's got an alternate explore deck and some alternate maps that you can use. And then along with that, there's three map pack expansions. Each one comes with a pad of paper and three cards specifically for that mini expansion. So you can kind of play cartographers in a bunch of different ways. One is called Nebulous, where it's like it's like this fire world, and there's a big volcano on your map, and there's these cards that are in your explorer deck that when they get flipped, you add like lava flows to your map, and it's destroying things that you may have built already, or maybe it's destroying some of the monsters that your friends put on your map for you. So it can be good or bad. And then the second one is called a frill. Plane of knowledge, and that one you're in this kind of this other plane where these purple stone islands are in this gray in the middle of this big gray sea, and you're basically mapping these little islands, and then you have to spend coins to connect them, so you start like moving from island to island as you do exploring. And then the third one is called Undercity, and that one is there's a top half and a bottom half of the map. There's the above ground and below ground, and you basically have to tunnel down into the underground. So when you're drawing your shapes, they all have to be connected back to the entrance to the underground. So and both that one and the second one, Afrill, have their own set of scoring cards that you replace the pattern scoring cards in the regular game. So they all add a lot of variety and kind of different new ways to play the game. And it's been doing really well. People are really excited about it. So there you go.
Very, very good. Lots of ways to play cartographers for those who like it. So we'll talk more about cartographers because it is the main reason for us to be here. Because in Brazil, we are very proud of the success the game is having because it was created by a Brazilian designer. But
right.
We'll start actually start talking about other games, then we get to cartographers again, okay?
Sure.
So Thunderworks, it's been here, it's been there, out there since 2013, right?
Yep.
What was your first game, and mainly what was the reason for you to start the company?
Sure. So the first game I published was a game called Bullfrogs. It was my first Kickstarter project. And it kind of came out of just the desire to make things. Kickstarter was a relatively new platform. I saw some of the other guys like Jamie from Stonemaier and some of the other creators at the time were having a lot of success on Kickstarter, and they were being very transparent about like how they were doing it, what problems they were running into, and how they were solving it. And they were so they were kind of giving away all the secrets to some degree, like telling people how to do this thing. So I was like, that doesn't seem so hard.
I can't do this.
So, and I had started designing a few games with some buddies, and I had taken Bullfrogs to a point in which I thought it was good enough to publish. And some of it just came out of fear of like trying to get one of these big publishing companies to try to publish it. Like just the idea of like presenting my game to somebody and they would say, yes or no. I didn't want to go through that. So I was like, I'll just do it myself.
It lacks control, right? When you present your game to someone.
Having control of the product and like being able to make all the decisions, because like I am I like things a certain way. I'm very particular. So the idea of like doing my own art direction and like just handing it off to somebody for them to just mess up, like was not something I wanted to do. So, and it was a small project, and I kind of just wanted to see if I could do it. And it did well on Kickstarter. I learned a million things. I thought I knew everything going in, and obviously I learned a lot of things and realized how foolish I was. But so that was kind of the first project, and then and once that kind of got out, and then I started saying, well, I can do another one, and I started thinking about like what do I want to do next, and then and I did that for a couple projects. I did a game called Blend Off, and I did a game called Role Player, which more people probably know than Bullfrogs. But
Bullfrogs is very famous in Brazil because it was published here when we didn't have many games, and it was the go-to for strategic small boxes games. So it was one of my first games, actually.
Oh, very cool.
It was Bullfrogs, and it's very, very good.
Yeah.
I met Luis, the graphic designer for the project, right? I met him when he was making the graphic design for your game. So for those who were playing board games in Brazil in 2013, 2014, Bullfrogs is a hit. It sold out very, very fast, actually.
Right. Yeah, it was like obviously I work with Luis Francisco, Brazilian guy. I met him on some Facebook group, and we just started working together on every Thunderworks project since. So he's a good friend, and he works on almost every day. So so that worked out really well. And I obviously Cartographers was designed by Brazil majority, the Brazilian designer, and Luis is Brazilian, and I've been worked with a couple of Brazilian illustrators as well. So I'm kind of all in with the Brazilian game creation community to some degree. So I've had a lot of fun and coming out of Brazil. So it's cool.
Talking about Role Player, you said it was your third project, right?
I think so. I always get it mixed up. Either like Blend Off and Role Player. I'm not sure which one came first. I should probably look.
But Role Player is definitely the hit for you,
right?
For your design,
So,
right?
I mean, yeah. Just at that point, so I was still kind of doing this in the evenings as a hobby, and then Role Player came out and got really popular. And then when I launched the Kickstarter for the first expansion, Monsters and Minions, and it did very, very well on Kickstarter, and there was a change, right? The success of that Kickstarter project said, wait a second, maybe I should be doing this full time. I started kind of planning my exit from my day job, and then
which was
Thunderworks.
Your day job? Your day job was?
Oh, well, I was like a project manager at a video game developer. So I worked in video games for 15 years. I was working at Raven Software. I worked on many Call of Duty games, and worked on, while I was there, a Wolfenstein game, and just kind of Raven does fantastic work. They've done a lot of AAA titles, ton of talent in that studio, and it was kind of fun because we were kind of helping out the other developers and Neversoft and some of the other developers on the Call of Duties every year, so that we were like we were never really on a project for a long period of time. It was always like, okay, we come in on the last year and help them out, and then we move on to the next project. So you never really were burnt out on working on the same project. Some of those video game projects can take 3, 4, 5 years to do. But yeah, Ravensoft.
So then Role Player was your turning point. Since then, what do you think is the main game you had in your personal life during that change?
Sure, yeah. I mean, working for a company versus working for yourself is a very different feeling. I have a lot more flexibility to spend time with my family. I have a lot of flexibility when I want to wake up in the morning. I have but it also means that I work a lot, right? I'm constantly working, like in the middle of the night or in the middle of the day, just because like I'm the guy that has to answer all the questions. I'm the guy that has to make sure everything's getting done. I don't have somebody handle it for me. I mean, obviously, I work with a lot of contractors like Luis and other people, but responsibility lies on my shoulder. But I also have the freedom, especially when it comes to time, how much work I want to be doing, to do all those things, which is really nice, especially um, uh, when it's with like my kid and my wife, and it's like I can, all right, I'm gonna go take the rest of the day off and go to my kid's thing at school, or back when he was not in virtual school, or I can just say, vacation this year, whenever. We just pick a date and that's it. Um, versus like trying to ask for time off and like, trying to make sure I have enough like pay time accrued. So yeah, there's there's that, but then there's also things about running your own business that I have to learn on the fly, right? I mean, I've never worked for myself before. If Thunderworks suddenly doing very poorly, then it's going to suffer because we need to pay the rent and put food on the table and stuff too. So in general, it's super positive, and I've had a lot of success at Thunderworks, especially in the last couple of years with cartographers and lockup and some of these other titles that I've been putting out. The current challenge is figuring out like what pace am I comfortable with in terms of like how many games do I want to be coming out each year, how much work do I want to be doing each year, because if I just if I decide to do too much, start pushing too hard, then people get burnout, right? They start losing passion doing, or they start kind of doing a poor job because you're trying to do too. So right now, that's kind of the balance that I'm trying to figure out, and it's taken a while. The plan initially was to do like 2 or 3 games a year, and now I'm wondering if like maybe closer to 2 would be better. But a lot of it depends on like the size of the games and the complexity of the games too. So that's kind of some of the pros and cons of working for yourself in the board game industry.
And you said you have been having much success with the role player and then lockup and now cartographers. And cartographers is for sure your most awarded game, right?
Definitely, and probably the game that I sold the most copies of too.
Already is the most sold.
So I mean, it's because it's a smaller game and it's more affordable. Like it's 20 in the U.S. It's $25. It's a lot easier for people to pick up versus like Role Player is a $60 game, and that's like it's a bigger decision, right?
Yeah.
So, because it's a smaller game and it's cheaper, it's easier to sell because it's just not as expensive. So I think at this point, Cartographers has probably sold more copies than Role Player. If it hasn't, it's very, very close. So
very good.
Yeah.
It's congratulations for your work in the game. What do you think was the main reason for cartographers to be that much of a hit? It's a huge success, mainly I think in the US and Germany. It has been very well received. And here in Brazil, it started selling very well after the nominee for Kenner Spiel. So what do you think it's the main reason for the game to have this success?
So, I mean, I think it's a bunch of different things, right? So I think the main thing is there's this just making maps and kind of building worlds is like, something that people just like to do. It's like part of the fantasy. And I think especially when people play Dungeons and Dragons or they played other fantasy role-playing games, like just building the map, it always feels like something cool. And then the idea of like making a game out of that experience is kind of immediately intriguing. The other things is like the wide player count, right? So you can play with any player count that you have a sheet for. So that's very attractive for larger groups, and then especially kind of in this pandemic world, people can play virtually with as many people as they can find, which has been a lot of fun for gamers. And then I think there's there's just this love for kind of roll and write or flip and write games right now, and it feels fresh and new, even though people have been playing things like Yahtzee for a long, long time. Um, but there's kind of been this sudden these types of games. So, and the fact that the game is visually a good looking game, I think kind of putting all these things on top of each other just kind of explode in popularity. So, the low price point also helps, so people can get into it and try it and not have to spend a ton of money on it too. It's interesting in terms of like sales. I'm finding that like obviously the wider the player count, the more people that can sit down and play the game. And then when somebody shows you a game, if you have a wider player count, then that means more of those people that don't have that game could potentially be interested in buying that game. So versus like if I have a two-player game or two-player only game, I sit down with my friend, we play the game, and we say, "Oh, that was awesome!" And then the guy who doesn't own the game walks away and says, "Well, whenever I want to play it, I'll just go play it with that guy." Versus like if you have 20 people playing the game, and there's a higher probability that like one or two of those people that sat there and played it for the first time might walk away and say, "Oh, that was cool. I want to get a copy so I can play with my other friends too." So I think the player count is actually an interesting piece of that equation.
Yeah, I played a game with I think 16 people, and
Yeah.
Jordi was the master. He was
Right.
drawing the cards and telling everyone, "Is this card? You have to do this or that." And it was very fun, actually,
Yeah.
and it's pretty awesome that you can play with that many people. And I think the record is like something in the round of 90 people, right?
Yeah. Like we did some. I don't remember what the record is, but I know like they'll do it at conventions. They'll grab a whole, some podcasts and stuff. Will use an entire room, and everybody in the entire room are all playing cartographers at the same time. I definitely know that they've played like 60 or 70 people at a time, and then I kind of lost track of what the record is, but it's cool.
Yeah, very good, very good. And to sum up, everything is in the same world. Role player, lockup, cartographers. Is there a chance that we can see the characters from role player being used in the worlds from cartographers and things like that?
Yeah. So there's a timeline. So these things are all in the same world. We've been building out this world. We've got role player, monsters and minions, fiends and familiars, cartographers as heroes. Role player adventures is the big kind of connecting piece. And then we've got a lockup expansion coming out that will probably be on Kickstarter early next year. But yeah, so there's a timeline though. So there's about, I should double check, but there's at least 1,000 years between the events of cartographers and the events of role player. But like there's things like in role player adventures, you might see a statue of this guy that's from 1,000 years ago, and then the heroes that are in cartographers heroes, there's kind of future projects that we're talking about like exploring those characters and finding out who they are in future kind of role player titles. So we're always trying to do as many kind of cool connections between these games to really build out the world that we've been building. And so I just say keep an eye out. There's going to be we've got some cool ideas in terms of like, if you've got some of the characters from Heroes, you're gonna find them in other products that I have coming. So yeah, there's like all these little connections that if you're a fan and you do a little bit of digging, you'll be able to find. There's it's not something that we really kind of put in people's faces, but I like to let people know that they're there. There's little Easter eggs all over the place if you turn under look under some rocks. So
very good. So people will be able to explore a vast world of many games, many incredible games. Keith, thank you very much for the time.
Yeah.
I appreciate you talking to us. So if you can let a message for Brazilian fans of role player lockup cartographers, please do this as you wish.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, Brazilian gamers are great. I love the chance to work with many talented people from Brazil, and I love Brazilian gamers. Keep playing the Thunderworks stuff, and we'll keep trying to make great games for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for watching this, and keep up with this channel. Continuem assistindo o canal. Subscribe, like the video, inscrevam-se e deixem o like no vídeo. E até a próxima. See you guys!